If I handed you two estate plans today, one with just a will and one with a living trust, which of them could save your family months of court, thousands of dollars, and an incredible amount of stress? The problem is, most people don't know which one it is. As a former judge and estate planning attorney, I've seen what happens after people pass away, and I've also seen the mistakes families wish they could take back. Today, I'm going to explain the real differences between a will and a living trust, which one makes sense, and how to know which is right for your family. One of the most common questions I get is, do I need a will or do I need a trust? And unfortunately, there are a lot of bad answers out there. Some people will tell you that everyone needs a trust. Others will tell you that a simple will is all anyone ever needs. The truth is, neither of those statements is correct. The right answer depends on your goals, your assets, and what you want your family to experience after you're gone. So let's start with the document almost everyone has heard of, the will. A will is essentially a set of instructions. It tells the court who should receive your property after you die. It also allows you to nominate a guardian for your minor children, which is one of the most important reasons parents should have a will in place. But here's what surprises many people. A will doesn't actually avoid court. In fact, a will is a document that's designed to go through court. That's because a will generally has to be validated through the probate process before your executor has the legal authority to distribute your assets. Now, probate isn't always a disaster. Some probate cases are relatively simple. Others can take many years or even longer if there are disputes, complicated assets, or family disagreements. Think of probate like waiting in line at the DMV. Sometimes you're in and out, sometimes you're wondering why you ever showed up. Either way, you can't skip the line if your assets have to go through probate. Here's an example. Let's say John passes away owning a house, a checking account, and an investment account in his own name. He has a perfectly drafted will. His family still has to go to probate court before those assets can be distributed. The will tells everyone what should happen, but the court still has to supervise the process. That's an important distinction that many people don't understand. Now let's talk about a living trust. A living trust works very differently. Instead of waiting until you pass away to transfer ownership through a will, a living trust allows you to place your assets into the trust while you're alive. Here's an analogy I use with clients. Imagine your will is like leaving detailed instructions inside a locked safe. When you pass away, your family has to get permission from the court to open the safe. A living trust is different. It's like giving your successor trustee the keys ahead of time. When something happens to you, they can step in immediately and follow your instructions without asking the probate court for permission. That's why properly funded living trusts typically avoid probate. Notice I said properly funded. That's one of the biggest misunderstandings I see. Creating a trust isn't enough. Your assets actually have to be transferred into the trust. If you create a beautiful trust document and never move your house into it, or never retitle your investment accounts, you may end up in probate anyway. I've seen people spend thousands of dollars creating a trust that never accomplished what they wanted because no one finished the funding process. The trust isn't magic. It only controls what you actually put inside it. By the way, if you're trying to understand how wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives all fit together, I've put together a free estate planning guide that I use to educate many of my clients. You can download it using the link in the description below. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions people have, cost. One mistake I hear all the time is, a trust costs more, so I'll just get a will. That's only looking at half the equation. Yes, a living trust generally costs more to create, it's more comprehensive, it requires more planning, and it takes work to properly fund. But here's the question I ask clients. Would you rather spend a little more now or have your family spend far more in time, money, and stress later? For many families, avoiding probate is well worth the upfront investment. Another mistake is assuming that everyone needs a trust. That's not true either. If you're young, have very few assets, or your estate is relatively straightforward, a will may be perfectly appropriate. Estate planning isn't about buying the most expensive documents. It's about choosing the right plan for your situation. That's why one-size-fits-all advice almost never works. So, how do you decide? If your primary goal is simply deciding who inherits your property and naming guardians for your children, a will may be enough. If your goals include avoiding probate, maintaining privacy, simplifying the administration process, or planning for incapacity, then a living trust may be the better choice. For many families, the answer isn't actually deciding between a will or trust, it's a trust and a will. Even clients with living trusts usually have what's called a pour-over will that serves as a safety net for assets that weren't transferred into the trust. So it isn't really a competition. These documents often work together. The key is making sure they're designed around your family's goals, not someone else's. Whether you choose a will or a living trust, the goal is the same, making things as easy as possible for the people you leave behind. The biggest difference is that a properly funded living trust can help your family avoid probate, while a will generally has to go through it. But what actually happens in probate court? Is it really as bad as people say? How long does it take, and why do some families end up spending so much time and money there? I'll pull back the curtain on what really happens during probate and what your family can expect in this video right here. I'll see you over there.